town vibes. We're mapping your party, you're in for a ride. Bachelor mayhem, city lights glow. Wild adventures, let the good times roll.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Drunken Suits. I'm your host, Bobby Carlson, accompanied by...
Will Kroboth.
And today, we're talking about a very serious matter. Just kidding. We're talking about a great sunny place, nice warm weather. We're having some fun doing it. Kroboth, where are we talking about today?
We are talking about Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, baby.
Hey, it's like if Florida was a holstered gun. It would be at the point of it, if like where the scope would be looking down. That's where Fort Lauderdale would be.
That is quite an analogy, but I like it. I like it.
Man, I can't wait to get into this. But just for anybody that's listening for a first time, I just want to give you a quick background of what we do here. So Drunken Suits, we talk about different cities across America and what they offer for bachelor parties. We kind of dive into what the city has to offer, different unique stuff, and then we try to have a great interview coming in with somebody talking about their experience. We'd love to hear about your experiences, so if you have any crazy stories or know anybody that does, please send it in, and we would love to hear about it, get you on here as well. But today, we got a special episode. We got Drunken Suits taking on Fort Lauderdale. We've already done a Miami episode, and this is if you know geography at all, this is a little bit more north of Miami. So it's a very different vibe. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to dig into this. So, you ready, Kroboth?
Yeah. I'm ready. I am ready. Like you said, we're situated about 30 minutes north of Miami, so there might be some references there. So definitely go check out the Miami episode. In case you're curious about that, but I'm stoked. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, I mean, like we said, it's this is what I've seen kind of everywhere. It's the less crowded, more affordable Miami.
Yep.
Less
I like
crowded,
to call it
less vibes.
I like to call it Diet Miami. I feel like that's
Miami.
the best way to summarize it.
Diet. Never heard of her. No, but yeah. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting to. A good vibe of that. We're having a lot of people there though. I saw it just under 200,000 in the actual area and about just under 2 million in the greater area.
Yep, that's about pretty much what I got. It is quite a large area, but a lot of times it can kind of get grouped together with the Miami population too, since they are so close together. But yeah, there's a lot of people down in the South Florida region, so it's you'll see quite a few people.
But then talking about seeing a couple people too, you'll see a bunch, but they have 13 to 14 million visitors just to Fort Lauderdale a year. That's
insane. That doesn't surprise me. Especially the southern part of Florida it's really driven by tourism too, so it makes sense. But it is still crazy, right? Like that's a significant number. I know we say that a lot, but it's
yeah,
you got to put it in perspective. That is a lot.
But I mean, after doing this research, it makes sense, right? You got year-round weather. It's Florida. It's going to be hot in the summer, but you still can go out. There's plenty to do. It's right on the water. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, looking at these pictures, I mean, it is gorgeous. Here are a couple pictures. Boom. I'm gonna edit that later.
We'll pop them up on the screen. They'll be over there and there.
Yeah, but it's gorgeous there. So it totally makes sense why a bachelor party wants to go there. It's gorgeous, on the water, warm weather, a ton of people visiting there. Average age there, though, it's about a little bit over, 43? Is that what you saw?
I didn't get an age on this one, so we'll have to trust you on that.
Yeah, I'm very trustable, so it makes sense.
Trustable. Inventing new words out here, too.
Yes, we are. It is early in the morning, and we are drinking. Anything for the podcast, man. But like I said, right on the water, right? It's got 6 beaches for Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of beaches, right? That's one of the great parts about this area is you can go to multitude of different beaches, and they have anything from your crowded, more crazy party scene type of beaches to your laid back, very quiet beaches too. So, kind of anything you want when it comes to beaches.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, we're definitely going to get into that interview and talk about his vibe of was it kind of played down or laid back or was it uppity. You definitely get different reviews. I mean, people go into bachelor parties with expectations and will go at no stop of to get that wherever they are. So you'll hear different stories of Fort Lauderdale being the craziest time of their lives, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the place that is the craziest for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and I think one other thing to mention too, kind of on that, is Fort Lauderdale is a very, very big spring break location. So if that gives you kind of any inclination of what can be a major draw, and maybe how it differs from Miami, that's historically been a huge place for spring breakers to go. Um, and yeah, we'll get into that in an interview too.
Absolutely, we will. Yeah, and that's great. So, I think one of the big first things a person looks at when they're planning a bachelor party to the location is where am I going to stay?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a big part of it.
Big part of it. And it's a big cost and it's a big thing to think about. You want to be in a safe location. You want to have things to do and fun things and be close to bars. And, it's a whole big mix of, am I really paying for being closer to downtown? Does it make more sense to kind of be further away, have our own little spot, and then just take Ubers? It's a lot of different things to consider. So that's one thing I was looking up when I was doing my research here. Now, also, there's giant all-inclusive resorts, and right there in Fort Lauderdale, big like resorts. I don't think that's a bachelor party way to go. That's just me. That's not unique to Fort Lauderdale. An all-inclusive resort isn't going to differ all that much from other inclusive resorts where in the sense that like you're getting a bachelor party, it's great because you're getting drinks and everything. But if you're going to be going out and hitting the town, do you need the all inclusive then? Like you're almost like spending too much money, I would think, than going out.
Yeah, and one thing too, at least in my mind, I picture bachelor parties versus another type of vacation is bachelor parties. It seems like you're just going to be kind of doing stuff almost not nonstop, but there's going to be a lot of things to do. This isn't like a relaxing vacation, right? So maybe something where you do an all inclusive on one of those kind of vacations, it could be great. But for a bachelor party, I kind of agree with you there. Maybe you want to maybe you want to go somewhere else, maybe save a little money on the lodging, and then use that to spend on another experience or a nice dinner or something.
Agreed. But with that being said, too, there's plenty of hotels. So it's like that hotel route, then you're getting like different amenities like pools, rooftops, maybe private bars, gyms. Like you get all that stuff, depending on your friend group, what matters to them. Also, like getting your own bed. That's, depending on kind of what age and people have money, so they might want to spend for their own room or sharing a room in two queen beds rather than, let's just pile up and go in a Airbnb. But with that being said, Airbnb and those VRBOs, and I don't really know the difference or if that's just the sites or I don't really know. But looking at both of them, they have their own stuff. And I was looking for Fort Lauderdale. There's waterfront properties, downtown properties. There's condos and villas. And then there's like the waterfront ones. There's different kinds that you can go canoeing and kayaking. And it's like, okay,
Cabrewing.
like, so cabrewing. Yeah. So obviously, right? What are we doing? Um, but it's just like it's what you want out of the trip and how often you think you're going to be at that house. But from what I took in though, Fort Lauderdale is pretty affordable comparative to like luxury places or like for Florida. It was pretty affordable for these housing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's definitely a big reason why I call it Diet Miami. It still has a lot of the luxury that Miami has, not to the same degree, but it's also reflective in the price. It's a lot cheaper than Miami, and but like you're still it's still on average a little bit more expensive, but way less than Miami, and you're still getting that kind of luxury, nicer, upscale kind of vibe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that kind of brings me in though. So then, like, so are you staying at the house or not staying at the house and doing different activities? Let's get into some of these activities you could be doing.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
What about that for a transition, huh?
That was pretty good. I was pretty impressed. I like that. I know you talked about beaches already. Like that's you're in Florida. I feel like anybody who likes the beach is going to have to spend a little bit of time there. They have tons. Mentioned there's plenty of options. Also, just water sports in general. I don't know how much you want to get into that, but there's very
Yeah.
similar options to Miami in the sense of fishing charters, different water sports, maybe little less on the crazy party scene than it is in the Miami sense, and maybe more a little laid back, but a lot of the same options there, and that you would see in pretty much any coastal area. Not to downplay that at all, I still think that that's a great activity to do, especially on a bachelor party. Bring a little of that energy, the adrenaline with the fun and the boys. So that's always it's a classic, right? It's a staple.
It is. And I saw this on one site and I got a little disgusted, truthfully. But it's like with the little canals going through Fort Lauderdale, they called it Venice of Florida.
I've heard
All
that.
right. Let's get real. Come on. Venice? Yeah, right. It's not Venice out here with the gondolas and all that, but I get it. The water's running through it. The water's so beautiful in Florida, and that's why I think really cool too is like a lot of these restaurants, breweries, buildings, like they all have views of water somewhere. Pretty cool, and I love it. It makes you happier. Like you were saying, though, boating, sailing, paddleboarding, jet skiing, deep sea fishing, party boat drinking, catamaran drinking. Like there's all these different options. Get out on the water. It's a staple. It's a staple for the uniqueness of Fort Lauderdale. It's got these beautiful beaches and water. Use it.
Yeah, and that reminded me too. One thing that might be kind of unique is I saw they have like it's almost like those pedal pubs that take you. So they have the pedal pubs obviously, but they also have them with boats. So you'll kind of boat around. You're not like paddling it, but you're close enough to the beach bars where they'll kind of like be on the boat, and then you stop off one of the bars and hop back on the boat and go another one. So maybe that's kind of unique to Fort Lauderdale.
It is. You took it from me, but whatever. Not mad.
Gotta be quicker than that.
Well, then I'll go right into it. So, like you're saying, these tours that you're doing, the cycling tours that you're drinking heavy on, going to these different places and trying different stuff. You get bracelets or whatever it may be, or like you said, like the boat cycling tours. Really cool, pretty unique that you get both options like that. So I looked up. So there's 25 breweries in the Fort Lauderdale, 50 in the greater area of Fort Lauderdale. There's guided tours, pub crawls, craft beer tours, and like you said, the cycling tours. There's also a Fort Lauderdale tiki bar tour, which is so cool. Which I've seen this before, and this one just Fort Lauderdale tiki, like it just kind of went hand in hand, right? So they have like a pontoon boat, and basically like strip it down so it's just the flat and the tubes, and then build a tiki bar on it. It's like that's genius.
Yeah, that would be a great time. I mean, that is classic bachelor party activities right there.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's perfect. Getting out there, get drinking, get in the sun, do some touring around. There's also 38 waterfront bars, and that's like beach bars, different like lounges, stuff. Beachfront, waterfront bars. Like that's great. That's twist my arm, right? So it is what it is. But you take on the next one.
Yeah. I mean, just before you do move on from that, you mentioned there's a lot of these different breweries, and they obviously have a ton of different styles and like local unique beers. But another kind of cool aspect about this area is there's a lot of um, locals might not like it, but there's a lot of transplants that come from like kind of all over. Definitely a lot from the Northeast. So you'll even get a lot of different beers from like the New England IPAs and all that, kind of all over. You're not going to have any shortage of different tastes in your group, right? Anybody's going to be able to find something they like, I think, at all these breweries. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so um, I mean, we like to bring up golf, right? That's kind of where I was
Yes,
gonna
sir.
go. I didn't bring up any specific courses because I mean, there's just so many of them. But there's, I think, within the Fort Lauderdale area, there are like 40 courses. So do your research if you're interested. If you're in a group that likes to golf, there's no shortage of options. The weather, the one thing unique about Florida is you play pretty much year round. So um, that's a big plus when it comes to golf. Weather's always pretty nice. Maybe in the summer it's a little rainy and wet, so be aware of that. But otherwise, you can pretty much play whenever.
Absolutely. And that's gonna chime in this week's segment of "Don't Be That Guy." Um, don't be
Okay,
that guy that doesn't bring sunscreen to Florida.
don't be that
We kind of,
guy.
yeah, we brought it up kind of in Miami before, but when you play golf, sometimes you don't think about it. It's like, oh, I'm not on the beach and stuff. Sun is just as hot, and you don't have water to cool you off. You have maybe some drinks, but not like the beach. So bring sunscreen. Don't be that guy that ruins the trip.
Yeah. And if you do forget to bring sunscreen, don't be that guy that complains about it all the time. Just you're gonna have to deal with it. You made your bed, now you got to sleep in it. So don't be the guy who forgets sunscreen. If you are, don't be the guy that then complains about
Yeah, suck it up. Be a man.
it.
Well, that was this segment or this week's segment of "Don't Be That Guy." So continuing on, then golf is great. We talked about some water stuff. We talked about some breweries. I'm gonna go in. This could be a daytime or nighttime, but um, there's multiple casinos around, which is real cool. There's some big casinos. It's not like it's going to be like a Vegas kind of setting, but some of these casinos are as big as the ones in like a one in Vegas. It could be just as big here, but it's not going to be, every door is a casino.
Yeah, I don't want to steal your thunder here, but the big one, right?
No, take it. Take the thunder.
Oh yeah. So I don't want to steal your thunder here, but the Hard Rock Casino is
Yep.
definitely the major one, the major player here. Real cool. They got like a
Beautiful building.
yeah, no, exactly. The hotel itself is in the shape of a guitar, so you can't miss it right off of I-95. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Real cool, and it comes around, and it's and the guitar in the middle. It's so cool. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could call it before I did the guitar right as you were saying it. Yeah, no, there's multiple real cool casinos. It doesn't have to be a daytime thing, but I just want to throw out like that's always, get out of the sun, hit a casino, make some money, pay for dinner, pay for the trip.
Yeah, or lose money. So
Yeah.
only bring what you're willing to lose. Gotta be responsible here too.
All right, sure. That's not what this
Sure,
podcast
sure.
is about. Being responsible. Come on, we want the crazy stuff.
With the crazy stuff, but we don't want a lawsuit either. So you got to throw the caveat in there.
Yeah, I think we did the call this number last time, so we'll hold off on that.
Yeah. No, but hey, like I guess let's talk about some other daytime activities. You are very close to a lot of the different Everglades or the Everglades in Florida. So that's always a real cool activity. If your group's into it, you could do an airboat tour. You could check out the Everglades. Um, just do a jet boat tour, kind of rip around on those things. I think there's even like ATV tours too. So there's no shortage of activities if your group's not necessarily trying to be on the beach and do the traditional water sports. There's a lot of different activities available as an option.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, no, totally agree. There's different things to do in Fort Lauderdale. There's not as much like so much to do where it's like you're like, oh my gosh, and stuff. Like we're here for 4 days and we ran out of what to do. But it's also like there's not so much where you're like there's so much to do and I can't pick from anything. I kind of ran through my daytime stuff of my highlights. So if you have more, please rip them off.
Yeah, I mean that was the bulk of them. I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention is you're real close to the Amarant Bank Arena, which is where the Panthers hockey plays. So hockey game, they do a ton of events and concerts there too. Technically, it's in Hollywood, Florida, so um, not Fort Lauderdale, but you're real close. I'd consider that the same. And then otherwise, yeah, I mean, we could just jump over to the bar side of things. I think that's probably going to be a big topic here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a big topic. With that being said, though, too, it's not as much club vibes that you'll see. Now, there is clubs and there is nightlife, but a lot of the bars, there's a lot of like lounges, there's upscale stuff, a lot of upscale. I think I've seen that a lot in Florida, though, too. There's there's ways to make this not an affordable trip. There's there's very upscale food and restaurants that you're going to be going, very upscale bars and nightlife. For more of the fun stuff, I saw like Fort Lauderdale Beach,
Yep.
and then like the bars that are off of that, and Las Olas Boulevard.
Yep.
Yeah, said that right?
Las Olas. Yeah.
Olas. All right. Las Olas Boulevard. Pretty cool. It seemed like that's a lot of where the spring breakers go also, so you got to be aware of that. But it's also, I see like a lot of like the nightlife, fun bars. You got to think too, like they kind of go hand in hand. Like the spring breakers aren't going to go where it's not nightlife. So
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Las Olas is kind of, I feel like, probably the premier street people think about when it's partying. You have everything. I feel like that's just a wide range. You have the trendy upscale type of things, but you also have some of those more casual, um, like you said, more spring breaker spots there too. Um, versus, I guess, the Fort Lauderdale Beach strip area is definitely a little more casual because it's more tailored towards like a beach party kind of vibe. Also a little bit more touristy, but you got the classics. I mean, I know we'll talk about the interview. The Elbow Room, that's a staple of Fort Lauderdale. You also have a bunch of other ones like the Rock Bar is a real fun place. They're all kind of right in a strip too, so it's easy enough to bop off from the beach and then hit a couple right in a row. So that's pretty cool. And also, it's right next to Las Olas. Las Olas and this Fort Lauderdale beach strip are very close to one another.
yeah, and that's perfect. I think great walking, kind of bouncing around different bars. That elbow room, I know you said we'll talk about it in there, but it's been around since 1930, and I've seen a couple of other these bars that are just staples.
Yeah, cash only too. It's is real a cool. If you're going, you gotta hit the Elbow Room. I mean, that one's a fun place.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw out a couple of different unique ones, chops and hops. I don't know if you saw that. That's a you drink and you axe throw. Could be fun for a bachelor party. Uh, Drunk bar and lounge. There's like an outdoor setting area, but it's like drunk by DRYNK, which is just funny in my head. Drink. Oh, I guess I'm going to drink, not drunk. Sorry, I'm drink.
That's incredible. That might make it on a clip.
Well, then I also saw some like club vibes too, which again, not a ton club vibe, but there's bars, there's music like that will go late, but like club, more techno, close quarter dancing, um, Club Euro and Dare. I'm guessing Daer. Dare.
Dare, yep.
Dare.
So Dare is actually like right by that Hard Rock Casino. So you're in a little bit different location there. That's kind of like you said, more the upscale. It's definitely club, day club, nightclub. Um, that's the kind of vibe you're looking for. They got it. It's available, but like you said, there's not too many other options.
Yeah.
One other place, unless you had something else you want to add there. I don't
No,
want to
no,
cut you off.
please.
Wanted to also talk about like the Hamarshi and Second Street kind of area. So this is we kind of have the groupings, right? We talked about Las Olas, kind of the Fort Lauderdale beach strip. We just kind of made reference. There's a little bit of bars and clubs around the Hard Rock Casino there. This Hamarshi or Second Street area is kind of another grouping of bars, and this is um, again more of like a young bar crawl, very lively nightlife kind of area. I would say probably a bachelor party would like to go here. Spring breakers probably also want to be here, but um, one of the cool ones, couple of cool bars there. We have the Wharf. That's a really cool, like almost like a street market, but for bars and like food trucks, and it's late night. So that's it's a really cool one.
Talk about
Um,
another staple.
yeah, no, the wharf is a big one. You got to hit that if you're going to go to the Marshy sector for sure.
Okay.
I had Capone's. There's backyard. That's definitely gonna be a spring break one, but cool kind of outdoor vibe. Maybe more upscale. You got the Bull Market, which is like a Wall Street themed one. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of bars, right? We don't want to get too much into it. It's just cool that it has a lot of different sectors of bars, and they all kind of have their own unique niche or vibe to it.
Absolutely. And one thing I always love a rooftop bar. And I think really cool in Fort Lauderdale, you get to see the ocean, you get to see the city. And the city's like beautiful. Again, it's just so beautiful all around. So you got like Sparrow, uh, 1WLO, and like rooftop at Kimpton Share Bank. So I don't know. There's just some I saw that were pretty cool ones. There's a ton though. There's a ton of rooftop bars, and I think that's always just so cool.
Yeah, rooftop bars, great time.
Yeah,
Always good, especially when it's got a nice view that you can look at. Is always fun too. Um, I did want to touch on right there. I had kind of had one more sector too of these bar groupings. Was Flagler Village. So this one's probably not as much of a bachelor party crazy party scene, but it's more of like a chill spot for breweries, kind of craft drinks, maybe a little more the artsy side of things. So um, maybe like a lull in the action kind of spot. But there's a lot of those type of bars in this Flagler Village area.
yeah, that's great. Hey, I meant to say this earlier too, and I don't mean to go backwards, but I wanted to say another pro tip for getting into the city: the airport that's there, the Fort Lauderdale Airport. It's one of the busiest airports in the country. So
That's interesting.
So plan ahead. If you're hitting all these bars and you're not going to be drinking and paying attention, plan this ahead of time because it's busy. Make sure you get there with plenty of time and, like picking people up. It's one of the busiest ones. So just keep that in mind when you're drinking that don't spend it to the very last second.
Yes. Also on that note, though, the Miami airport is, like we said, it's about 30 minutes away, so it's an option. My personal experience in having gone through both of them, I will go through the Fort Lauderdale airport 9 times out of 10. So it might be busy, but I think it is much more efficient.
Mm.
So I'll just throw that out there.
There's another pro tip.
Yes, sir. Another pro tip, if you really need an airport, you can go about 30 minutes north to the Palm Beach International Airport. So that services a lot of other places. It's smaller, so maybe not as many places, but it's another option and not too far away.
Well, I think what makes Fort Lauderdale one of the busiest is it's a main hub for a lot of the bigger names going there, which makes the flights a little bit cheaper because that's a hub for them. But at the same time, it means it's drawing in bigger crowds.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, right? You gotta
Mm-hmm.
expect if the price is going to be a little cheaper, it's probably going to be busier and whatnot. But that's just how it goes.
But from the airport, getting into these bars or where you're staying is not a hard thing. It's pretty accessible. It's pretty right there. So it's pretty cool that that's there and that's available. Florida, it's so long. People traveling, it's going to be hard to get to just by driving if you're able to drive that. So probably people are going to be flying in if you're not from right there, anyways. Well, Crowwealth, I mean, let's hear it from somebody that was able to have a bachelor party in Fort Lauderdale, got his friends there, and had a good time.
Yeah. Let's let's throw it over. A good friend of the podcast here. We'll catch you over there. All right, we got our guest here today to talk about Fort Lauderdale. Our friend of the show here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I love what you're doing here. I think you're capturing a really cool moment that a lot of people experience, but maybe don't think too deeply about as far as planning ahead. So this is you're on the right track here from what I've heard so far. Love the stuff you put out.
I appreciate it.
Love that. So from what we're understanding, you had a bachelor party here in Fort Lauderdale. I guess give us a little bit of background on that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm coming up on my 7th wedding anniversary. So marking 7 years since the bachelor party as well. I did it a little bit differently from what I've heard some of your other guests. Right. I was pretty newly fresh into a full-time job. I had a bunch of buddies that were still in school, different places across the country. So I tried to keep it convenient, low key, low budget. I was getting married in South Florida, so I figured, hey, I'm not going to have everybody take 2 trips. Let's try to just pack it in the day before, a couple days before the wedding, since we knew we weren't gonna get too wild, at least in theory. So I had them come down to Fort Lauderdale, fly into the airport right there, super convenient. Spent a couple days hanging out downtown, hanging out on the beach, and then made it a little ways up north for the wedding itself, in Palm Beach County. And it worked really well. It was a time that I'm always going to remember. I'll probably never again have that exact same group of guys available for, that kind of time to have that much fun. So it's a fun thing to look back on. And yeah, everything went pretty smooth. Like I said, kept it low key. Not as much the Miami vibe, but that definitely is something that I want to talk to you guys about, right? I hear a lot of love for Miami. Want to maybe spread that to a little bit smaller, a little bit quieter of a city that still's got a lot to offer for a bachelor party with the boys.
Awesome. Well, just off what you said there, I just sparked up multiple questions. But first one, going right before the wedding, I know you were probably like, because you're a dude. The wife, though, how scared was she that something crazy was going to happen?
She had a rough idea of what we were planning to do, which again was keep it pretty low key. So just knowing me, right, and trusting me that nobody was going to get too debaucherous. No issues there, right? I mean, I think if I had said, yeah, we were going to fly somewhere and then try to, catch a flight back and make it to the rehearsal dinner, same day, I think that probably would have gone a little bit differently. But, I picked up a bunch of buddies at the airport, drove over to where we were staying on the beach, had a couple days of fun, and then shuttled everybody, or as many as I could, up to the wedding location. So, like I said,
That's
low
great.
key, went super smooth. She was cool with it. Yeah, definitely would not recommend it if depending on the destination, right? Fort Lauderdale is not a Miami. Fort Lauderdale is not a Vegas. That might be a little bit of a tougher sell.
Yeah, you're not having Hangover Part 5 coming at you from Fort Lauderdale with your boys.
Right. Racing up I-95 to try to get to the wedding. No, we did not do that. Casually made our way to our final destination. Everybody in one piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, how many days did you say it was? Was it 3?
I think we spent 2 nights. I think it's pretty quick, pretty easy. 2 nights in Fort Lauderdale. We were staying at a place on the beach. I don't know if it was a hotel or condos or one of those, combinations. People rent rooms. So I got married. Like I said, I'm coming up on my 7th wedding anniversary. I got married in March. Being from Florida, right, having attended a university in Florida, go Gators, I knew I was in the clear with spring breakers, at least from the big Florida schools, because I knew that schedule. I did not, however, know the spring break schedules of some of the Midwest schools. So everywhere we went was packed with the just rowdiest bunch. From Michigan State came in heavy. That was the one I remember a lot because I would hear people yelling like, "I got a Michigan State." I'm like, cool, didn't ask. Have a great time. Yeah, I there may have been. I mean, I don't want to slander any too much, right? Be sensitive to our dear Crobo here, but a lot of Penn State out there, keeping it classy.
All right, representing well. I like it.
Yeah, keeping it classy. That's a nice way of putting Penn State. Jeez, yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, Fort Lauderdale for decades, right, was one of the major spring break destinations. They've kind of shifted all over the state, past 10, 20 years, like up in the Panhandle. Panama City is a big place. Way back in the day, I know Daytona was a big place. Fort Lauderdale has been in the mix. I don't think has ever fully gone out of it. And we certainly felt that the days that we were out there, the nights we were out there. But it made for a good atmosphere, right? Because we were intending to have a pretty laid back time, and it was just kind of thrust upon us that we were going to have get a lot more excitement than we were anticipating. So.
And then in the midst of the spring breakers, did you run into any other bachelorette or bachelor parties there?
If we did, they were so mixed up in it. It would have been hard to tell. Yeah, I would say it's probably not a top destination, right? As far as like southern, that's way southern, but like, major, like you go to Nashville, right? Every other group is a bachelorette party, right? You go to places like Charleston, every other group hanging out is a bachelorette party. I would say Fort Lauderdale is not like that. With respect to Miami, you guys' familiarity with Miami and even attending bachelor parties there, things are going to be much, much quieter, low key, a little bit less expensive, which is nice, a little bit less busy, which is nice, depending on what you're looking for, right? If you want the big major clubs vibe, right? Like in your last episode, I heard you guys name dropping all the big spots in Miami. You're not going to find that. You're not going to find that in Fort Lauderdale. So for better or for worse, right? Depending on what you're looking for. It is a quick drive or even train ride away to get to that. So that could be definitely something on the itinerary if you're looking to have a little bit of variety in the vibes. But that's up to the vibes guy, right? I hear you guys are big on identifying the vibes guy. So that's his job to suss out if everybody's ready to hop on a train and crank things up.
I love that. Vibes guy is most important, keeping the energy going. Well, then that's awesome. So, I mean, let's get into what your bachelor party looked like. I would love to hear some of the events that I know you said you picked them up and went right to the condos then. What'd you have going on after that?
First night. So it was the itinerary was definitely different night 1 to night 2. Just based on the crowd that showed up, right? Night 2, my now wife, right? My soon-to-be brothers-in-law were coming with us. So the rest of the guys wanted to get a few things out of the way that they weren't sure how, these other two that they didn't know so well were going to mesh with, right? Obviously, gentlemen's clubs, that sort of thing. We'll say that was night 1. But yeah, picked the guys up, grabbed all the necessary supplies to stock the condo with, which was chips and beer. lots and lots of beer.
The essentials.
The
all you
essentials,
need.
right? Which,
Yeah.
yeah. One surprise treat for myself, just because I've got a bit of a sweet tooth when it comes to ice cream. Picked up a couple tubs of ice cream. They're like, "That's a weird choice for a bachelor party," and I'm like, "You'll thank me later." The next morning when I woke up, very hungry, very in the mood to fuel myself for the day, popped open the fridge and freezer and saw all I had was ice cream. Immediate regret there. So, hot tip for the boys: make sure you stock up on filling and nutritious snacks to get you going. Ice cream is probably not the move.
A little,
But beer
little
is.
morning ice cream.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta
morning
stay- you
ice
gotta
cream
stay
with your
hydrated.
morning beer.
Right. You
Maybe
gotta-
pour
you
some
gotta stay
cornflakes
hydrated.
into the beer.
Now we're getting inventive.
Maybe
Picked
maybe
them
an
up,
egg in the
got
beer,
every-
perhaps.
Ooh, little what's that?
A miner's breakfast.
The miner's breakfast. Yeah, you got to go through the full gamut, right? The miner's breakfast, the lumberjack lunch.
Yep.
I gotta say, the miner's breakfast is Crowbot's specialty. That is
So
that's
I've heard.
There was a time where I was doing a few of those. That's for sure.
So I have heard. Yeah, that's what gets you moving.
Yeah. Well, hey, this interview is not about me. This is about you. So you wake up and you have your morning ice cream. What
Right.
does the rest of that day look like then?
Right. So we're right there on the beach, Fort Lauderdale, right? You've got it's so many beautiful beaches to choose from in the state. Fort Lauderdale certainly among them. Right next to where we were staying, there's kind of a major shopping, dining, entertainment complex, kind of open air, called Beach Place. At least it was at the time, Beach Place. So it's a spot to check out. Pretty quiet during the day, but at night, right, that first night, that was very, very lively. Like I said, that's when we made the abrupt realization that we were sharing our event with spring break for most of the Big Ten, it appears. So everybody walking up to you asking what your major is, and you're like, "Oh no, I'm just here for that guy's wedding," and the looks of sheer disgust. Let me tell you guys. I was not expecting that, right? I guess maybe it was the time of night and the amount of drinks consumed, but people are not thrilled to hear that you're about to lock it down and do some adult things like getting married when they're out there trying to get as plastered as possible. So tried not to throw off the vibes too much. It was good though. It was fine.
That just threw me to Old School, the movie, when Will Ferrell's there and talking about his Saturday. He's like, I think we're going to go to a furniture store and pick out some night tables. And these dudes are like beer bonging next to him. That's great. That's so fun. I mean, how old were you though when you were on this?
I was 24. 24. So I got married pretty young. So I'm where you guys are now, right? So it was, everybody walked up and was like, "Wait, really? You're getting married?" Because I was Will Ferrell at that point of Old School and not yet Frank the Tank. So,
But I mean, 24, that's a hard take to be the old guy at the bar when you're 24 years old. I mean, that's nuts.
yeah, that hits you like a freight train when you realize you're the elder statesman because you ordered a bottled beer instead of the dollar well drink.
Big difference.
But like I said, we did not know that was happening. We weren't expecting that, but definitely leaned into it, and it made for a really good time just kind of going with it. So yeah, going back to that, everybody's got to have a little bit of a role, right? Being the vibes guy. There's no way to avoid it. There's no way to avoid the spring break party atmosphere, but you definitely could have a good time if you just rolled with it, and that's what we did. So that was a bit of an audible, right? That was a bit of an improvisation. Highly recommend not over planning, right? Not over anticipating how things are going to go, and just lean into the experience you have, and it'll make for a much, much easier and probably more memorable time.
Yeah. Now, with that said, right, like in ideal perfect world, I know you guys adapted and really embraced it. Do you think it would have been enhanced the experience, or maybe drawn away from it if it wasn't that spring break time of year?
Looking back on it, I think it was a good thing, right? Because by choice, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of cost effectiveness, we were going to somewhere that was not a major bachelor party destination like Fort Lauderdale. We knew we weren't going to do maybe some of the things that I'll suggest to you guys are more unique to the area and that are must do's, right? My whole thing was I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to get together for a couple nights right before all the excitement and stress of the wedding. And just hang out, have fun. If we had just ended up spending 2 or 3 straight days, like chilling in a house on the beach or on the intercoastal, I would have been happy with that. But looking back on it, that certainly made for a much more memorable time. Just having that energy that, again, wasn't anticipating, but very fortunate that it coincidentally was dropped on us.
Well, I like that because, hanging with the boys is always great. And, a group can make a bachelor party or tear it down. I'm glad that you guys went with the punches and had some fun with it. But I guess, too, in your group, I forget this. I'm not even sure if you said it. Did you have a size? What was the size of this group?
Oh, how many of us were there? I want to say about 10.
Perfect. So of the
Yeah.
10 guys, how many do you think were single, like that really was happy to see some spring breakers?
Half, at least.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was fun. That was fun. I think they definitely appreciated the energy a lot more, right? I was happy that we were all having a good time. I think they were especially happy every time. Not every time. I will tell you about that in a second. But most of the times, being approached by a group of nice young ladies, right? As now I'm elder in my years, that's how I have to call people. So.
Well, that's
what
awesome.
A gentleman.
Yeah, pure gentleman over here.
Yeah, I've got my pocket full of Werther's Originals I would hand out at the bar now. So.
Oh
You're
man,
30 now. That's nothing. Come on.
I think I know the story I was getting at. If you want to get into that one, I think was that at the Elbow Room? I remember you mentioning.
It was not at the Elbow Room. So the Elbow Room, if we want to, drop some places there on the beach, on Fort Lauderdale Beach is a spot. Elbow, ELBO, if you're looking it up. It's been there forever, right? I think it's a place that going back to, right, Michigan State, Penn State, Midwest, spring breakers, etc. So my dad is a Nittany Lion, and he was at the Elbow Room back in the 80s, right? So it's got some
Wow.
it's got some staying power, some name reputation, brand name, but it gets wild, especially on a spring break, right? We certainly saw that at the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale Beach in 2018. That was not where what you're referring to occurred. Night 2, we were downtown Fort Lauderdale. There's a couple different spots of downtown that have the clusters of bars and restaurants. No big club scene. One area is 2nd Street, 2 Street, Himarshi. Those are all the different names you might hear it. Collection of bars, lounges, maybe some things that might be adjacent to a small club. But a good place to bar hop for sure. And just people pouring out the doors when we were there. And we walked into one place with our group. People started to spread out, hit up different sides of the bar, get drinks. And I had one buddy who walked up to the bar. And, I mean, it was like the Terminator. This chick had it locked on him. She just beelined straight to him, tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around and said, "Hey, what's up?" And just would not let him leave. I mean, she had him physically pinned up against the bar, where the only way he would have been able to escape was to pick this girl up and move her out of the way. And he was not about to put his hands on some random girl in a bar, spring break. Like that was not the move. So gentleman as he was, he stayed pinned there for way too long. And of course,
no.
right, us being his dear friends, we left him there naturally.
Of course.
And we were.
That's how you know you're good friends.
Made our way. We check in on him. We didn't leave that bar until he was free, but we went and got our drinks. We're hanging out, dancing, and periodically, we would check in on him. And she's still just like leaning on him at that point. I don't know if for physical support or just she was that into him, and the look on his face of, you guys need to get me out of this. So of course we obviously gave him like a very helpful thumbs up and then continued what we were doing. So
That's perfect. That's how you know it's a good friend, when you can put them in that situation and then keep them there too. That's when you go and buy them a drink or something too. Make sure they're there for another 30 minutes.
Yeah, he wasn't there for too long, but I'm sure for him it felt like a lifetime. But yeah, it was good. I mean, that night that we were out there, lots of places had DJs or live music going. Very, very fun atmosphere. And everybody was getting into it, right? Even, the oldest among us, my oldest brother-in-law he was making moves on the dance floor, like I would not have expected. Like, I don't think I've ever seen since. And
Wow.
I'll never forget these girls were watching him dance, and, he's like doing some moves here and there, right? People are coming up to him. He's grabbing hands, dancing. And I just overhear one person say, "Wow, he's like a really good dancer." And then one of my buddies who had seen this before and talked to him, right, go from the previous bar, was like, "Yeah, I think he's actually, taking dance classes." And the girl was like, "Oh, wow, I wonder, like, for credit?" The whole mindset is like, well, this guy has to be like 22 years old, right? He's got to be a senior at, Purdue or something like that. Like, what's going on here? And then my brother's like, no, like he's an adult. Like, you can just like pay for dance classes, right? That's a thing you can do. He probably took them with his wife. And the look of confusion of like, what the hell is this guy doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Only I can have fun. If you can't describe yourself by a major, you can't have fun. But back to it, right? Leaned into it. Had a great time, right? Hey, am I the oldest guy in this bar? I don't care. Am I the only one here who's not celebrating, like, having to not do finals this week? I don't care. Right? I'm here with my buddies. I'm here to celebrate, and nothing else in the world matters. So I think that's whatever your vibe is, that's the mission, right? That's the overall objective is you're going to have 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, right? A week, however crazy you're going to get with these parties, that your mission is to focus only on the group that you're with, that you may never be able to assemble in that same state again, and just go make memories out of it.
I love that.
And so, friend of the show here, you had your brother-in-laws come the day after the gentlemen's club and strip clubs. The idea behind it, I mean, I want your kind of opinion here. Did you, like, I obviously did that on purpose, but like for other bachelor parties?
For sure. That was a choice made by the other guys who were arranging our, very loose itinerary, right? They knew that the brothers-in-law weren't going to be able to make it until the next night. So they said, all right, let's pack the, stuff that we've never met them before. We don't know how they're going to mesh with the group. We don't know if they're going to be into it or not. So let's just knock it out a night early. I think if they had come along, it wouldn't have been an issue at all. I think they would have had, just as much fun as everyone else. But yeah, that was a choice, right? That folks just not knowing each other, right? Tried to make decisions that would lead to the least amount of, awkwardness or, weird feelings of, that's not really what I'm into. It's not really what I wanted to do, right? Because maybe they felt that there was a big enough gap in age, experience, whatever, right? It's like, hey, do I want this guy who's got kids at home? Like, is he going to be interested in going to somewhere that me is, like a 24-year-old grad student, like, is interested in going to? So probably overthought it, right? Looking back on it, it wouldn't have been a big deal one way or the other. But that was a decision made for sure by, my best man.
I don't think that's the worst decision though, too. I mean, even friends come and go. Hopefully they don't go, but a brother-in-law, for me, marriage is for life. So, I mean, that brother-in-law will be there forever. So maybe he doesn't want to see you grinding up with some girl that after he knows you're about to marry his sister.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was. I think I was certainly, and you'll have to trust me here, right? By virtue of my anonymity, right? That I'm telling you the truth. I think I was certainly the tamest one at the gentleman's club. Um, and that spectrum varied quite significantly, uh, without outing anybody too bad. A few left with quite a bit of glitter on them.
Hey, good though. If there's a time, bachelor parties are the
That's the
time, right?
time. That's the time. If everyone's having a good time in their own way, let's do it. So yeah, that was part of night one. That was definitely part of night one. Yeah, and then night two when everybody was there. I mean, they were good to go, right? They were ready. The brothers-in-law, right? They were meeting us. We were regrouping back at the hotel, and they said, "Hey, we're coming up the elevator." So I mixed them up drinks, which I don't know if how familiar you guys are with the classic cocktail of a Caribou Lou, as popularized by Kansas City rapper Tech Nine. If you haven't
I'm
heard
not
the
at
song,
all.
oh, you're gonna have to check it out if you haven't heard. It's a song, and the song tells you how to make the drink, and it tells you all about what happens when you drink the drink. I'm not gonna sing it for you. I'm not gonna rap it for you. So I apologize. You have to bring me back on the show for that in a different kind of state of mind. But it's 151 or whatever overproof rum you can get your hands on. Malibu, right? Coconut rum liqueur, and then pineapple juice. Three simple ingredients. Packs a punch.
I
So
like
that's
it.
down pretty easy too. Yeah.
Yeah, we mixed up quite a few of those during our regroup recharge at the hotel, and as they were coming up the elevator, I made them each a glass and met them at the door of the elevator. We all did, right? So you're stepping out the door, and there's like, you know, 8 or 9 dudes in front of you, just like cheering, like, "Hey, now you got to get into the party." And sure enough, all love to those guys. They crushed those drinks before they even stepped off the elevator.
I
So
love
they
that.
were
I love
they were
that.
in the spirit. They were in the spirit. So back to, could we have made the itinerary differently? Them being there the night before, they would have been down for anything. They were in the spirit.
I like that. I like that too.
Awesome.
It's a little test. And you passed the test, right? Are you ready to bring the energy, bring the vibes? Could you be the next vibes guy? Who knows?
We had a clear vibes guy for sure. Clear vibes guy. Which, I mean, if you're measuring just by amount of stripper glitter, there was a clear vibes guy.
Is that a test of do you get the vibes guy title by stripper glitter on your face?
I think by that point it was probably already earned, but that was maybe a physical representation of it, right? We didn't have any pins or badges or, a little sheriff's badge, but you could probably have made one out of just the sheer volume of glitter.
Oh my god. That's great. Oh man.
That is fantastic.
And we all learned that it is very, very difficult to remove, because the next day during our daytime activities, I mean, he sparkled, right? Metaphorically and very literally.
Oh,
I'm dead right now. That's awesome.
I'm just imagining him having like sparkles, like a little sunburn, and then once he finally gets it off, there's like a little flecks all over his body just from the sun burning him in those spots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Having a glitter shadow.
Yeah, it was it was hilariously noticeable, I'll say that. Especially because, like I said, this was the days before the wedding. I got married on a Saturday, so we're hanging out, partying in Fort Lauderdale during the week, right? Wednesday, Thursday kind of deal. So one of the daytime activities on Wednesday or Thursday during the day was we did just a pedal tavern, pedal pub. And they got a lot of different names in a lot of different places. And, this was at 2:00 on a Thursday in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Was not the party scene, right? We were having a fantastic time, and everybody else was like grabbing a late lunch, coming off of work, coming out of one of the big buildings there. So, I think that to me was probably my favorite aspect of it. Was actually that very simple, super common, right? Almost cliched, like pedal pub activity. That was probably my favorite part of it, because of how concentrated, right? The the group was, right? We were literally sitting around this bike, pedaling our asses off, right? Every place, because it was the middle of the day and they didn't have a bunch of unruly customers to serve, was just way, way heavy handed with the pours on every drink we got. We had like little wristbands with tickets on them. You go into the next bar, they give you the ticket, they take your ticket, fill up your cup. Most every place we went into, they're like, we're not going to see business for like another 6+ hours. Like, I'm not taking your ticket. Get whatever you want, fill it back up, take some for the road. Have a good time. Congrats, man. So that was,
wow.
We had a very, very good time pedaling around the streets of downtown Fort Lauderdale on this bike, blasting music, everybody singing along terribly. And I just had a moment of looking at all these guys. And again, thinking back to that, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to assemble this exact group of people in this exact type of environment ever again. So let me take a bunch of kind of mental snapshots of the moment. It was awesome. It was really cool. And the fact that we were doing it in the middle of the day when like kids are getting picked up from school and people are, like I said, like trying to take a late lunch from work, just that contrast made it so ridiculous that added, I think, to the enjoyment. So there is something to be said about leaning into both the party vibes and leaning into the both. Now is absolutely not the time to be partying, but we're going to do it anyway vibes.
Yeah. And you're with your boys, so it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't really care about what other
Absolutely
people are doing.
does not matter. Yeah. I mean, it was, we came out of one place and we're at a stoplight and this car pulls up next to us and we can see there's a lady driving the car and the front passenger seat is like her, 12-year-old son. He's got his school uniform on, clearly just got picked up from school, trying to get home, cutting through downtown. And we're on this bike, music's blasting, we're pounding drinks, and we're waving at this kid, and he's like waving, the mom's kind of laughing, like, oh, these guys. And one of my friends is like yelling through, at the kid. The window's obviously rolled up. He's yelling to the kid, can hear him. He's like, hey man, you want some of this? You want? And he's like reaching out, right, as if he's gonna hand the kid the cup. And the kid like his face lights up, and he's like, yeah, awesome. And I was like, dude, I know you're pretty wasted right now, but you're not about to give some 12-year-old kid like a cup full of probably what I imagine is like straight tequila. And he's like, no, but look, let's see what happens. So he like is like looking at the kid waving. The kid's like, I'm gonna roll down the window, right? I'm gonna roll it down. And the mom just looks over and sees this exchange and winds up and backhands the shit out of this kid, like straight on the chest, to the point where we like couldn't quite tell if this was a joke or if this was like, damn, this kid is about to have a really rough night. And he was like playing it off really cool, laughing. The mom's like frowning at us, like, that's not cool. Don't pretend to offer alcohol to my minor. We were cracking up. That interaction was absolutely not how we expected it to go, and certainly not how that kid expected it to go. So if you're out there and you hear this, and 7 years ago your mom bitch slapped you in the car because some guy pretended to offer you booze from a pedal bike, I'm sorry. I hope you're doing well.
I mean, hey, everything that kid has been taught was to not take things from strangers, don't talk to random guys, and don't drink underage. Almost failed all those tests in 5 seconds.
You know what? Then he was taught a powerful life lesson that day. From the looks of it, extremely powerful.
Not only were you guys having a good time giving out free life lessons.
Right. Hey, you know what? We're always in it for the kids, right? What can we do to give back to the community?
So I want to go backwards, though, to this pedal bike. So I've done one, and I think there's some different kinds all around. So in this Fort Lauderdale one, like, were you all on like the same bike and it's pedaling going to bars, or you have like different bikes going to different bars and there's like a guide?
It's a big vehicle, right? I mean, it can sit probably a dozen people around it. It's as if you're sitting at a very narrow bar, right? Like a horseshoe around, and then up front is the driver. Everybody has pedals at their seat, right? You've got a little built-in cup holder there. Everybody's got a cup that you just keep filling up at the different places you go. So obviously, if the locations are close together, you better drink up, or else you're going to be wasted opportunity. And he can flip the motor, the electric motor on this thing, on and off. So if you tell him like, we're good, we're going for it, right? We're going to burn some energy. He'll turn it off, and then you better start hauling, because that's a lot of weight to move, especially with a bunch of drunk idiots on it. And then, of course, casually, right, the guy won't say anything and he'll just flip the motor back on. And you're like, yes, I'm a champ. Tour de France, here I come. And then it's like, if you take your feet off of this thing's cruising anyway. So, yeah, everybody's on the same thing, right? It's got a sound system on board. It's got a driver. You're for the most part propelling it, but that can definitely be switched off, and definitely does get switched off by the third or fourth bar. And it just cruises around to the spots that the company arranged, right? So they know you're coming. They've got, they got someone at the ready to field your drink orders. And like I said, you usually have like a wristband or tickets or something to indicate that you're about to get a drink from this place. Pretty much everywhere we went, it was dead, because it was like 2 or 3 o'clock on a Thursday. And they're like, here you go, boys, drink up. Have a good day.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
That is great. Now, I wanted to switch over here. You mentioned that you had the condo on the beach. Did you guys end up, what kind of water sports did you do? Did you go hang out on the beach? Was that a big part of it?
If you're trying to ask me if we went cabrewing, I'm so sorry to disappoint. We did not cabrew. There was no cabrewing on this trip, though it is something I highly recommend now that I know that it's a word. So we did some beach time. There was a pool at the place, hung out a little bit at the pool. But yeah, as far as other water sports, if you're in Fort Lauderdale for a bachelor party, right? I don't know if you guys have heard this before. Fort Lauderdale is called the yacht capital of the world. So boat charters, whether just pleasure cruising or offshore fishing, very, very easy to get booked, very easy to price shop, right? I don't know if you mentioned this before, but since the Gulf Stream runs so close to South Florida, excellent fishing. The species you can catch are some of the most enjoyable to catch and, in my opinion, tastiest fish in the world. So if anybody's into seafood or fishing, that's a super, super fun activity that you can do right there in Fort Lauderdale. Don't have to go anywhere far to get in on that. Probably less of the like jet skis and that kind of stuff, right? You want to go maybe to Miami for that and putter around in Biscayne Bay. Fort Lauderdale doesn't have like a bay area like that, so you'd just be kind of stuck in the canals, like the intracoastal waterways, to do it. But yeah, if you're trying to get on a boat, get offshore, very, very good place to do so.
So then Fort Lauderdale, bachelor party that's planning on going there, what's a must-do for Fort Lauderdale?
Obviously the beach, right? I mean, especially if you got guys coming in from out of state, up north, middle of the country that don't have access to the ocean as often. It's an excellent place to do so, right? Fort Lauderdale certainly a much more of a party beach scene than maybe somewhere quieter, right? Like farther north up the coast. So the beach is a must do. Depends on the crowd you've got, right? I mean, I certainly have some recommendations for a group that's looking to do something a little bit different, right? Maybe even a little kind of tacky in a good way, really get into the full spirit of Florida Man. Fort Lauderdale has a couple institutions, I'll say, that have been here for decades, that are part of kind of the old South Florida, which old South Florida, I mean, within the past 100 years, right? That's about as old as we get for the most part. But that could actually make for an unexpectedly good time. So right there in Fort Lauderdale, next to the beach, there's a marina that has this big double or maybe even triple decker, looks exactly like a Mississippi River steamboat. And it's been around since probably the 50s. It's called the Jungle Queen, right? Anybody who's grown up in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, has probably been on or at least familiar with the Jungle Queen. And again, if you're looking to do a daytime, maybe early evening activity before things get particularly rowdy, this could be a really fun one. You pile everybody up on this boat. It just putters around the river, the intracoastal waterways there in Fort Lauderdale. You kind of sightsee all the big waterfront mansions. There's obviously a bar on board. I wouldn't have suggested it if there wasn't. And then it takes you to their property, right, a little bit upriver, and they've got all you can eat ribs. and a variety show. So they've got, like the fire dancers and the hula girls, and then like a comedy act. Again, very kitschy, very tacky, very old Florida. But if you're, looking for a way to start the night, right, with some laughs, some food, something a little bit different, that could make for, like I said, a understated, unexpectedly good time. Jungle Queen.
That's great.
That would
Yeah,
that would be
I
that would
didn't
be a
know about
memorable
it.
one. Yeah, yeah. So stuff like that, right? There's another spot, a little ways in, right? Probably got to get a car to get everybody there. It's a restaurant called the Mai Kai. It's like a tiki themed Polynesian Pacific Island themed place, right? The food super mediocre, the drinks pretty overpriced. But again, the vibe's what you make it. It's been around forever. It's very, unique in the area. It's probably been knocked down and rebuilt as a result of hurricanes a dozen times over the course of its life. It's open again,
Wow.
and you can get some good tiki drinks, and again, watch some fire dancers, hula show, hang out there. It would be a good spot, like I said, early evening, the formal dinner before you start engaging in very informal activities. So highly recommend doing some sort of dinner, right, where everybody can get dressed up, you go together, you sit at a big table, right, whether or not there's entertainment, you're classing it up a little bit before the evening's activities begin.
That's great.
So those are a little bit of the old Florida kind of Florida man, right? Tacky but fun things you can do. A little unexpected, a little different.
Yeah. So when you had your bachelor party, was there anything that you told the best man that it was a must do? This is what I have to do, or did you kind of just leave it all up to him to plan?
Left it all up to him. I made it very easy. I said, let's do whatever we can to get everybody here together, right? Like I said, got married pretty young, so I figured a bunch of friends were either going to be early on in their careers, probably not pulling in the big bucks, or maybe even still in school, right? I had friends in law school, dental school, grad schools of various kinds. So my priority was pick something that we can do in a place we can go the week of the wedding, so they don't have to take 2 trips. And as long as everybody's together, I'm up for anything. So they kept it very easy, very open itinerary, other than like the reservation for the pedal bike and a reservation for like a nice sit down dinner at a fun spot. Everything else we just played by ear. And then where we went really was ended up being driven more so by the spring breakers, right? Figuring that that's where the party was.
That's great. Well, it always comes to this towards the end, unless Crowboth has another question.
Nope, I'm all good.
All right, well, it comes to it. I need a rating, 1 to 10, and it can be, that figure skating rating where it's the point, whatever, but Fort Lauderdale for a bachelor party.
And walk us through your thought process.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you my thought process first. Maybe you guys can help me with the rating here. So Fort Lauderdale for a bachelor party, very easy to get to, right? Fort Lauderdale International Airport is super close to downtown. Lots of flights in and out from major destinations around the country. So that's a big check mark right there. Beach, right? Of access to the beach, since that's an easy, don't need to plan ahead, might be something different for people coming in. The fact that it's there, right? That you have it, that you can just walk out of your place, walk across the street, and you're on the sand. That's another plus. A couple different neighborhoods in town with some fun spots with very different vibes, right? Like I said, the probably more geared toward the bachelor party, youthful, high energy, right? You've got the bars there on the beach place, which is where we went one night. The bars downtown on 2nd Street or Himarshi, where we went the other night. High energy, a lot of fun, but there are also spots that are going to be a little more upscale, a little quieter, more where you can lounge, get some food. So some variety, and they're all relatively nearby. That's a big plus. Disadvantage, though, you're not going to have the major party, big clubs, day clubs, pool party stuff that you'd get farther south in Miami. So if you're looking for that, you're going to have to hop on the train. That'll take you downtown Miami, from downtown Fort Lauderdale. So plus that's available, minus that you may need to do that if that's what you're looking for. So I'd say, yeah, that's a bit of a disadvantage there. Quieter, less options in the pure party space. The beach, the water, availability of water sports. I know you guys mentioned previously, right, just in South Florida in general, if you want to do something way different, airboat tours, right, head out to the Everglades. That's pretty much a straight shot across the county. Within 30 minutes, you can be on an airboat, gators in your face from Fort Lauderdale. Probably even quicker to get to, definitely quicker to get to than from Miami. You can make it over there on your way, stop and catch a Panthers game. If hockey's your thing or the Grooms thing that time of year, hop on the train, like I said, and it's walking distance from the downtown Miami stop to whatever they're calling the Heat Arena if you want to catch a basketball game. So a bit access to major sporting events. Didn't even touch on if you wanted to do the casino action at the Hard Rock. That is a whole topic in and of itself. That's not within the city limits of Fort Lauderdale, but very short car ride away, and you could spend your whole bachelor party there. That place is a compound. So all that being said, I'm going to say Fort Lauderdale is probably not the top destination in most people's minds. So it's not going to be a 9 or 10. Lots to do, lots of places to stay, easygoing vibe that allows for that flexibility if you did want to completely change it up. So I'm not putting it at the bottom either. I'm going to go, it's maybe because, right, I can't be too harsh on my own home area. I'm going to give it a 7.3.
Okay.
7.3. Wow.
Why 0.3, you might ask? Because the arbitrary decimal point makes it seem more legit. So
Yes, absolutely.
Pro tip, add more detail. People think you're not full of it.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about then.
Well, hey, on that, is there anything else, any other details you want to add on Fort Lauderdale?
Check the spring break calendars of the major universities across the country, maybe at least east of the Mississippi, because that could dictate how your event is going to go. Just because
Perfect.
Florida State's not partying it up there doesn't mean that Michigan State's not. And those people pronounce bagel as bagel, so I don't even know what they're into.
Probably should be un-American at that point.
Well, hey, friend of the pod here. Really appreciate your testimony and your stories from Fort Lauderdale. So thank you. Appreciate time coming on.
Yeah, thanks for
and
having me, guys.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
7
love what
years.
you guys are doing. Keep it up. Oh yeah. We'll talk at the 8th anniversary. Tell you more stories.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you to a good friend of the show here. We appreciate your testimony. And also, hey, we're keeping this identity anonymous here. So anyone who wants to come on in the future, it's always an option. Keep that in mind. But yeah, let's talk about this Fort Lauderdale interview. What'd you think?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. A friend of the show, true friend of the show too, calling out Cabrewing, new vibes guy. He's all in it. I love it. And it was such a great interview. Sounds like he had a great time. Biggest thing that I thought was interesting, and I want to see what you did this, the sending the brother-in-laws coming in later than the rest of the group.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really kind of just unintentional how it ended up working out. But I think that it was kind of good planning by the best man to schedule the certain events in the way that they did. But like you said, it wasn't going to be an issue, so that was cool that they kind of fit the vibe. But I get it because right, you're gonna have most likely different groups on a bachelor party. These are your friends from this stage, and these are your friends from this stage in life, and sometimes you don't know how well they're going to intermesh. So I think it was good to take advantage of the situation that they were in.
Absolutely. And Yeah, it seemed like they were good. He said they were vibe setters right off the bat, finishing the drinks right in the elevators before even taking a step off. Sounds
I
like
knew you
it's
were
just a
gonna love
great
that
group of
one.
guys. I loved it. I mean, yeah, I think being a vibe setter is so important. Like, never, you don't want to be the guy complaining. You don't want to be the guy tearing things down. You want to be anything other than just a vibe setter, right? Like,
Or at least a vibe
even,
matcher. At least.
yeah, or matcher, or even like you think about volleyball. Like, I think a vibe setter is literally a setter guy. Like, hey, I'm gonna boost everything up just so someone can go boom and have a great time. You know, like you're setting everybody up for a great time. I think a vibe setter is great. Being the vibes guy is you are that dude spiking every time, just bringing up everybody, getting everybody cheering. The vibe setter is just getting everybody like. I would say a vibe setter would be best man planning a great bachelor party. Vibe setter is the music guy that's putting on music that everybody's going to be dancing to and just loving it, getting into it. Vibe setter is the dude going, why don't we do a round of shots at the bar? The vibe guy is the guy going, shot, 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 and like dancing, and he's, has the moves. The vibes guy is the dude that pulls in that chick and starts dancing with her and stuff. He's the vibes guy. Vibe setter gets everybody, gets the vibe guy ready.
Okay. So they can't be the same guy. Is that what you're saying? You need at least two.
Well, then you're a little self-employed if you're setting yourself up. Let's do shots, and then you're the dude just.
Well, hey, but what if nobody's stepping up to the plate for one of the roles? Can you do both? Can you juggle both?
It's hard to juggle both. I'm gonna say it's hard to juggle
I
both, but I
think
feel like
you could do it. I think you could do it.
well, yeah, I could do anything.
If anybody could do it, Bobby could do it. I know that.
It's hard being the setter and nobody's taking the layups, right? If you're
It
if you're
is.
throwing up an alley oop and no one's there to slam it down, then yeah, you may as well just do it. But it's like the vibe setter has to come first. The vibe setter sets it up, like trying to get everybody going, like this stuff. The vibes guy just brings it.
Yep, but couldn't the vibes guy, create for himself? Like he's calling ISO. He's like, I'm just gonna make space and do it myself. He's like, I don't need a setter. I'm just gonna make it happen. Is that an
It's
option?
good. It's good, but it's a tricky line because there's going to be a lot of times where you're just going to be, hey, you just kind of look like the alcoholic. Let's do a round of shots, and then you put down five. It's like, all right, this dude's on his own planet here, and he doesn't really. He's not the vibe. Yeah, he's not bringing the vibe of everybody. He's just vibing himself.
Well, I think the vibes guy also needs to be intelligent and be able to read the room. And that
You would
brings
think.
me into one of my points on the takeaways.
Yes.
How's that for a transition?
Yes. Love it.
Was one thing I thought was really cool was our friend of the show here taking into consideration the stage of life and just kind of the lives that everybody in the group was at during his bachelor party. So that's something important to take into consideration. He thought that a lot of people were either in school early on in their careers. It was going to be difficult to do a whole separate occasion for the bachelor party, and which was the reason for the location, for the timing, for pretty much just how he ended up not planning it, but like what he wanted and when he wanted to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that brings me back to the episode 2 with Dan, where he was talking about one of his greatest times is just when he realized, oh, this is going to be the greatest weekend. I'm here with my best friends, family, and everything, and I just get to drink with them and have a good time for the rest of this trip. It's like that realization. I mean, it's the whole feeling, and I'm so glad that he's able to take those mental notes, like you were saying, like mental screenshots that just this is just a great time, and I just got to be in it. Like that's such a cool aspect to be self aware of.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Is like got to remember to be in the moment for the bachelor party. I mean, especially for yours, but like honestly, for everybody there, you're gonna have way more fun if everybody's just in the moment, enjoying each other's company. That's the reason you're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to back up a little bit though. What about a vibe setter trying to give a minor alcohol on the streets?
Ooh, ooh, that might be like you tried to set the ball, but then you like set it directly away from where the hitter's hitting it.
Yeah.
You know
Well, that happened. You remember that story on the bikes where they were
that
drinking
was funny though. It
in the
was really
car?
good.
Hilarious. And it's good that you have, that responsible guy there too, friend of the show, going, "Hey, buddy, you're giving drinks to a 12-year-old."
It was a heat check. He was like, "Hey man, check. You might want to check what you're doing there."
Hey, let's. I love that you're up here, but let's bring it down a little bit.
Well, we're gonna need a word for that guy. I don't know. We'll have to think of something, but there's
What, the
gonna
responsible guy, or the
yeah,
guy
but
that goes too far?
the guy who checks him. There's got to be a good role play for that one. But all right, I mean, talking about responsible party too. Another good takeaway I think that our friend of the show here mentioned was being transparent with the bride. Uh, you're not going to get if you're telling, she doesn't need to know every single detail, but if you're keeping her in the loop, it's going to be a lot easier to avoid any sort of like drama afterwards. Just it's always good to help build that trust too into the person that you're about to get married to. I don't want to be causing any problems right before the wedding either.
Definitely, definitely, especially when you have a group of half the guys are single and you have spring breakers there too. Things can get dangerous on that real quick, and it's hard to take a nice picture for the bride or for whoever's girlfriends when one dude has stripper glitter still on his face.
Oh man,
Can we
that
take a
was.
second on that? Can we take a second on that?
Let's talk about it.
So the brother-in-laws come in. They're, Vine Park. But like he said, the friend of the show said, like, it's hard to get stripper glitter off you, especially when it's that amount and that quantity. It's hard to get off of you. It's not like the brother-in-laws didn't know what just happened.
They were aware. They were aware. Let's just say it was a good thing it wasn't the friend of the show.
Yeah. But also backing that up, like backing the bachelor party up right to the wedding, and you're struggling to get stripper glitter off is hilarious.
Yeah, that is pretty good. I mean, that's gonna be a story. They're gonna bring that up at the wedding ceremony or the post ceremony.
No one's supposed to outshine the bride, but that gives a different definition to shining.
Oh no.
Still got some in your teeth.
Nope. We're gonna go to the next takeaway point here. Bring more than just food, chips and beer. Right, bring a little food. I think that's a good takeaway point.
Not just ice cream.
Yeah. Maybe something a little more nutritionally dense. I think was mentioned. Good point. I mean, maybe seems obvious, but easy to overlook when you're in the moment there.
Definitely. And I think good point too is like, as much you want to fill up on beer and everything, and that's all you have, you don't also want to go out to eat every meal too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of ties into the other point, right, about not over planning everything.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a nice dinner or two, or occasion, but you want to be flexible. I mean, sure, there's going to be some lulls or times when people get exhausted, need to take a little rest, and that's when it's great, like you're saying. Maybe we grab something to eat at the house right now instead.
Definitely. And nice to have food to do that.
Yeah. Something more than ice cream and chips.
Yeah, definitely. It sounded like he had such a great time, though. It was nice that he talked about the Elbow Bar. Got a little bit wild there. Second Street, and he gave us the different rundowns of what Second Street's called, but bars and lounges. And then the pedal drinks. I mean, that seemed like that was the best time he had. Music. I love that he said the places they went didn't really care about the wristbands. They were more just like hey, it's Wednesday and it's noon, or Thursday and it's noon, and why don't you guys just drink up?
That was incredible. And I also love the shout outs to like the old Florida style things. If you really want to lean into like what old Florida's about, they were kind of cool. Helped us do our job too. So shout out friend of the show
Definitely.
there.
Definitely. And I think one thing really important for a bachelor party, and he touched on this for sure, and we asked a question, but rolling with the punches, right? Unexpected spring breakers are there. They rolled with the punches and actually turned out to be a lot of fun for them. Made a whole lot more memories and funny stories at the bars. It's like, and that's with the overplan. Like, you don't want to overplan things. You don't want to like, oh, something that stray happens doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just you got to roll with the punches, and who knows, it might turn out to be even a better time.
Yep. Yeah, like you said, kind of before too, being in the moment helps with that, and just kind of embracing what you have and really just enjoying it. Again, it comes down to the people you're with at the end of the day. That's really what it's all about. The destination's kind of just a bonus.
Definitely. Fort
But
Lauderdale,
hey,
though, seems like it held up to some good standards there for what he wanted out of it. It sounded like it was a pretty good time.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, do you want to jump over to kind of what we're analysis of Fort Lauderdale is?
Sure. Well, to start, then he gave a 7.3.
Yeah, yeah. How you feeling about that?
It's good.
It's a rating.
It's a rating. It's there. He didn't give into so much of a detail of how he got there. I think the 0.3 was a little just little flagrance on it, just to make sure it sounded better. But I think he was right in that 7 range. I think he put into it's not a top destination. There's a lot of like easygoing vibes with not like the club vibes or anything like that. And there was some good energy, but that came from the spring breakers. So 7.3, I get it, yeah. And here's my kind of breakdown, some things I'm thinking about, and I want us to go kind of back and forth here with how you feel about it, and we're gonna kind of give a combo breakdown if that's cool with you.
Yep, sounds good.
Word. So there's things to do. There's there's a ton of water stuff to do. Unique. There's golf. There's breweries. There's multiple casinos. There's bars. There's a street where there's rooftops and clubs and like things to go. Um, it's about year round. It's got it's like it has a lot to do. There's some stuff you brought up too that I probably didn't mention, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think to sum up what you're saying there, right? There's kind of just like, at least for the daytime options, there's tons of different things you can do. It's kind of limitless, and it's also a really good mix of like chill and partying. Right? They have both of those ends of the spectrum. So you have that adaptability to whatever your group wants. Um, and even reflective in like the bar scene too. You have the spring break, almost degenerate kind of places, more upscale luxury, or like the artsy beer, like beer garden type of thing too.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's really cool that that's all there. I mean, I love that there's water, right? Like I love thinking of a bachelor party being able to use the water. I think that always just boosts up in my ratings. Like I don't, I guess I don't have a clear rubric for what my gradings are. It's kind of how I feel everything ranks into it. Um, it's a safe area, Fort Lauderdale. It's almost like a higher end area too. There's very classy places, very nicer places. You're going to be safe there. The water there. There's things to do, but maybe not like that unique of stuff, right? Like we didn't say anything that was like, "Hey, I haven't heard this in any other city." So it's kind of like, okay, but in any other city, there might be more people, more lines, more pricey stuff. but that might be a good or bad in a sense, right? Like it's kind of take the good and bad of what I just said there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that even just price could be a good and a bad. It's going to be cheaper than the Miamis, the Vegases of the world, but it's also, I guess, almost kind of similar to Austin in the sense that it's like, okay, it still is a major city. It's still probably going to be higher than the average prices, but right. So it could be a good or a bad. Another good or a bad is the weather. Um, like I know you touched on it earlier with the heat of the sun, right? Wearing your sunscreen. So that's a big part of it. In the summertime, it can be quite hot. Then you also have to think about like rainy season too, right? In the summer, it can also rain. So if you're having a lot of outdoor activities planned, be aware that it might be wet. So uh, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. The weather.
Yeah. And also thinking with price too, with what you're saying, you got to think about this too. Where Fort Lauderdale is on that southern part of Florida. Florida is a peninsula. There's not like a lot of people that can drive from it. Even if you're in the top part of Florida, it's a good hike to get down there. So for a groom to be asking people to be flying there, most likely, then paying for all different sorts of things during the bachelor party, I mean, it gets pricey in that sense, right? So it's like if you go to the Ozarks, go wherever, like it borders all these other states that you can drive. Like a lot of people, might be able to collapse in driving, but this is like most people are probably going to be flying there.
Yeah,
So
I hear you. I think most times your bachelor party is going to end up at least some people flying anyway. But I absolutely get where you're coming from on that.
yeah, so I'm just trying to throw in every kind of factor that we have to it. I'm gonna let you go first. I feel like I've taken first ratings, unless there's anything else that
All
you're
right.
calculating in.
Yeah, I guess just some other things that factored into mine. Probably more on the negative side is the seasonality, right? Both in terms of the crowds, but also sometimes that can affect the pricing too. Um, with like especially around the spring break time. Um, I guess probably a negative, but we'll spin zone it is the fact that there's not too many clubs. It's smaller. Um, Me personally, that doesn't affect it too much, but I'm trying to kind of give a holistic rating considering everything. But the spin zone on that is you are super close to Miami, right? It is 30 minutes. They have trains that run down there from Fort Lauderdale to and from pretty much
Mm-hmm.
almost all times of the day. So I think it's really kind of cool that you could spend most of your time in Fort Lauderdale. Maybe you want to do one event or one night in Miami. Totally doable, totally a thing. Yeah, kind of so with that, talking about everything else we had, I ended up giving it an 8.8. I think our friend of the show here was being a little too modest, a little too a little downplaying his experience a ton. But yeah, let me hear what you went with.
I went a little bit lower than that.
Okay.
I took in the price of it. It is more affordable than Miami, but Miami is also godly, right? So it's like oh, it's more affordable than Miami, but it's also like, all right, like still more expensive than a ton of other places. So with that being said, I went a little bit above. I think you're right. I think he was trying to be modest with it. He's from closer to the area and goes there, so it's not like he. And I think there's other things that you could do on a bachelor party there that he didn't necessarily do or talked about. So I put it up a little bit higher, but I didn't. You said 8.8.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was at 8.3.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, I think this
I was
kind
a
of makes
whole
sense.
point above him.
Yeah. Even still, I think this makes sense because it fits kind of what we would prefer in a bachelor party too, in the sense of
Yeah,
I prefer probably to be a little more low key, then maybe you would want to be. So I think that the ranking difference there makes a lot of sense. We're still pretty close to one another. I guess one other thing I didn't really mention too is I think that it
Well,
has a
wait,
lot of flexibility.
before you jump to that next point, that low key point, I think that went highly in my rating. Is that you
Oh,
can be
really?
low key through the whole day, but then you have spring breakers or anything like you can have a nightlife there and not be bothered by it through the day. I kind of
Yeah,
like that aspect.
yeah, for sure. I guess that's kind of what I was a little bit what I was saying is like trying to think holistically, like from someone who's getting married at like the age of what do you say, 24, versus somebody who's maybe more like closer to their 40s. I think Fort Lauderdale could be a great option for both and anywhere in between. So I think that also helped boost the score in my mind too.
That's the same with me too. That's yeah. It's we're doing this rating for not just what we would rate it at the. It's like for a bachelor party, what does this city rank up? So I agree with you, man. I think that 8 range is pretty solid.
Yeah, I looked back, and it's going to be tough having, for me, my bachelor party ranking of Fort Lauderdale higher than Miami. But I think the versatility and just the, I don't know, I think it has a lot more options, customizability than Miami does. So,
Miami was big time of you're paying for your experience there.
yeah, you know what you're
This
going to get, and
is
you're going there for the reason.
yeah, you're
That
going
reason.
there for a nightlife, but it didn't tailor it to all ages like Fort Lauderdale could. And I think you can have those experiences similar to Miami without paying that fine dime. So I think that's why this is a pretty good spot. I think 8s are great scores, very good scores when it comes to it. 7.3, I can understand where he's coming from, but I think it deserves a little bit more.
Agreed. And hey, if you guys would love to hear your thoughts about it too, so always feel free to drop a comment. Um, Tell us what you think. Also, if there's a city you want us to talk about here in the future, let us know. Maybe we'll feature it on a future episode.
What I really want to hear is what city or place is a perfect bachelor place that's maybe the unheard of one. I feel like we've been hitting
Yeah,
some pretty cool ones lately, and I would want to know what's one that people talk about that people don't talk about.
yeah. I want to. What are the underrated spots?
Yeah,
I'm excited to hear those. That's a good call. Good shout out.
yeah. Let's twist it up. But I just want to thank everybody for listening to Drunken Suits. We're gonna keep putting these out there. We're having a blast doing it, and I hope you guys have a blast listening. Thanks again.
Thanks.
It's the last hurrah before the big day. Stories run wild in the craziest way. From Vegas nights to the beach town vibes. From afternoon party, you're in for a ride.